All right, I think we're ready to start. At least the doors have been closed. Hopefully everyone is here in the right room, right? It's about accessibility. No one's mistaken? No? Good. Okay. So who am I? So my name is André. I'm actually from Portugal, but working in Belgium currently. So I'm suffering heavily from jet lag. So if things go wrong, please, forgive me. Yeah, in the picture, I'm just showing two things that I really love. So yeah, my daughter Alice and doing triathlons. So yeah, that's me with her. In a competition. I work for iText, which is a PDF company. Be sure to visit us upstairs. We're front and center. You cannot miss us. So, what is accessibility, right? I guess everyone has a sense of what accessibility is. So, like all the hip kids do these days, I pulled up a definition. And I would like you to focus on this bit, right? I think this is the general conception that people have about accessibility, right? So it's only for people with disabilities, right? So we immediately think about, blind people, people who can't hear perfectly, stuff like that, or maybe some issues with colors, etc. This is typically, I mean, raise of hands, is this what you usually think about when you think about usability, right? Anyone has a different vision of it? Well, I'm guessing not. Okay, so in terms of accessibility and technology, there's a W3C effort. So W3C is what's called the governing body for HTML and whatnot, right? I'm sure everyone has heard about W3C as developers. So they have this web accessibility initiative where they define a set of guidelines and rules on how web content should be, produced so that it is accessible, right? So does anyone know like which rules they may have? Do you have any idea off the top of your head? I don't know if we have web developers in the room or front end. Are you a web developer? Yeah, of course, but it was funny. So I went to the NDC website and I was kind of seeing if they were like compliant or not. And one thing jumped out, right? Images, right? You need to have an alternate description, right? I mean, we're all lazy and we either don't do it or for compliance sake, we write image 1 or something of that kind, right? Which is wrong, but, it does make it accessible, just not really consumable if we're honest. So W3C is an example. The Section 508 of the US Rehabilitation Act for iText is really important because our US customers refer to it and say, are you 508 compliant? And in terms of web, what that means is that if the web page is compliant with the Web Accessibility Initiative, but in the PDF world, which is what I'm going to talk about, it's about something called PDF UA. Okay, where UA stands for Universal Accessibility. Easy. Well, much easier than WAI, I think, if you ask me. Anyway, accessibility. So this talk, and maybe, I don't know if you guys read the description of the talk, or maybe just the title that got you engaged. Hopefully both. But for me, and for this talk, obviously, accessibility is just not for people with physical impairment, as I was saying before, like visual or auditive. It's for machines with human impairment, right? So it's something that machines really lack. It's that human touch. But the problem is that with technology more and more in our reach and assisting us in getting access to documents, how can we help technology help us? So on the slide, you can see Alexa, right? So if you ask Alexa to read you a PDF document or a web page, it will go through it. But if you have images in there, it will struggle, right? It doesn't know what it is. And even if it knows what it is, it will probably struggle to interpret it the same way as a human would, right? So clearly the challenge is that machines cannot read, right? I mean, at least in the human sense of it. And in there you can, I mean, you're welcome, buddy, right? We should help them out so that they can help us. So I've brought an example. So, you know, does anyone want to venture on how, yeah, a screen reader would read this image? Anyone? Should be easy, come on. Come on, you guys. I know you want to say it. Say it. Right, the quick brown image 1 jumped over the lazy image 2. Well, possibly. So I came prepared. Oof. So let's see like how Acrobat would read it. Is sound on?
The quick brown jumped over the lazy.
Okay, it's even worse, okay? You know, the developer didn't even bother to add a description, you know? So the quick brown jumped over the lazy. Or, as you accurately said it or foreshadowed it, it's a great word, the quick brown image 1 jumped over the lazy image 2. Well, the good thing is we are programmers, right? Well, sorry if you're not. But it's super easy to solve, right? So in there you can just see a small piece of code. So obviously it's a bit of a shameless plug. So this is, you know, iText, my employer, and a piece of code on just creating a PDF file that just says the quick brown fox, and then the fox as a description, you know, just fox, okay? You know, it's easy to solve. We do have tools. So I'm not sure if it's visible, but for instance, in there, it's the accessibility checker for PowerPoint. Okay, so PowerPoint is saying, you know, you're missing alternate texts, the slide title is missing, etc. Okay? I mean, but like I said before, I'm here for PDF in particular, even though most of these concepts will be applicable to HTML, PowerPoint slides, whatever. And like I said earlier on, so PDF has its own set of standards called PDF UA, and its own set of tools to check documents for accessibility. Okay, okay, so this is an accessibility checker going through that exact same document. You know, PDF syntax, okay. Obviously okay, I've used iText for it. Fonts, so basically UA says that fonts need to be embedded into the document. Content, okay, fine. There are no embedded files. Natural language, it's failing. So by natural language, it means that the document does not specify the language in which the text is, okay? So let's say you have a screen reader and let's say it's French that's written on the text, and the screen reader will try to read it in English. It will just sound funky, weird. Then it's a bunch of, yeah, structural stuff, if it's a valid PDF document, and then alternate descriptions, right? Which goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier on about the web pages and the alt component, okay? So if I come here, if I navigate, it just says, yeah, this figure is missing a description, and so is this, okay? So this is the issue. All right, let's jump back in. Okay. So, I mean, going forward, maybe it's easy to assume that we can create documents that will be easily consumable, right? Let's just use, you know, this kind of piece of code. Let's consciously put alt descriptions on our web pages, etc., right? I mean, but what if we don't? We're lazy. I know I'm lazy. Developers are lazy, if we're honest about it. But most importantly, what about all the content it's already out there, right? I mean, if you Google for PDF documents, there are more than 1 trillion PDF documents out there. I mean, how many of those are accessible, right? I mean, what about, docx, websites, Excels, PowerPoints, whatever, right? What do we do with all of that backlog, all of that information? Is it lost forever? Maybe not. That's what I'm here for. I mean, what if we teach robots to assist robots? It's mainly the concept of this presentation, okay? So I don't know if you guys know about Xkcd. So who doesn't? Raise your hands and please get out of this room, is what I would say. Okay, so enter machine learning and some shameless plugging. So phase 1, we're going to use Azure services, specifically Vision and Translate and iText. Phase 2, who knows? Phase 3, Profit. Yes, it will absolutely work. It will be a live demo, which always work out perfectly, right? So, cue a demo. So like I said before, jack lag and whatnot. Let me tell you that the demo will involve REST requests to a service that I've subscribed to a trial, and I've received an email saying that the trial is about to expire. So all good things. Okay. So, having said that, all right, so I did a small piece of code. Hopefully it's readable. So basically, it takes as an input file this PDF file, okay, which it was failing. And now, let me tell you this, PDFs are complicated, unnecessarily complicated. And I just want you to show you, just out of curiosity, trust me, I'm not selling anything. This is a free tool. But I just want you to show how complex it is. Okay. So yeah, PDFs. I'll just expand stuff so you'll see, what that looks like. Just out of curiosity, all of this is just for that stupid, simple document. Okay? And in here somewhere, it's just, I mean, how crazy is that, right? Anyway, so I use the code, and in here somewhere, I'm going to search for my to-do, because this is where the thing is. So I just did something strangely simple, and I'm setting an alt description for Wallaby for all of the images that I find. Please work, please work. Okay. All right, done. Okay, so if I just opened this file, well, you kind of already saw the expected outcome.
The quick brown wallaby jumped over the lazy wallaby.
Right? It works. So all we have to do is go through all the PDFs on the internet and update manually, the description on it. Easy peasy, right? Only 1 trillion PDFs. Super easy. But then that got me thinking, there has to be a better solution for it. So, at iText, we were looking at solutions for OCR and ICR. So ICR is just handwritten technology. And I came across Vision. So, with Vision, we can just extract the image from the PDF, send it for computer vision for analysis. and then get a description for it, right? So let's, well, before, maybe let's take a look at if the new document is compliant or not. Let's see. It is, right? Because we have Wallaby, right? But that's the danger of having this kind of automated checks, because tools may think that it is valid, but it's the same as, you know, just not being, because it's just useless. So for instance, Adobe, if you load up a compliant file, they will say, look, it is compliant, but it does require a human to review it, you know, to check if the content is correct or not. So natural language is missing, so we're not saying if it's English. But that's fine. So let's just, you know, run it, get rid of the Wallaby, and maybe get better results. So for this, I actually, live demos. You know, it's just because the file is open, so the file descriptor is open. That one is easy to fix. Let's just restart the whole thing. All right, so what do you guys think that will happen now, right? Will the Wallaby go away? Will we have something better? Anyone? No? You, sir. With the iText Polo, you have no idea. Wow, it's kind of funny. You should, actually. All right, so I just set up a breakpoint just to check here what vision is returning. So we have, okay, so we have two things. One is captions. Okay, oh, sorry. Okay, so a fox looking at the camera. Sound about right, right? The quick brown, a fox looking at the camera. Okay, kind of better than Wallaby, if you ask me. But they also offer tags. That's pretty cool, all right? So what's tag number 1? Tag 0. Fox, right? That's pretty amazing. It's kind of what we were expecting, right? So the quick brown fox. Awesome. So let's continue. Fox worked. All right. So it's going. So you probably found the dog now, right? So for the dog caption, what is it? Oh, still at fox. Okay. Description. A brown and white dog sitting in the grass. It's like, it's so poetic, right? We should just use it and forget about tags. I mean, I'm in love with this. All right, but let's check tags anyway. So, I was going to ask show of hands, what do you think the first tag would be for the dog? Is it a dog? No, damn it, it's grass. Okay, so, you know, not perfect. Anyway, I know it's a live demo and maybe you guys were expecting me to fail at this. No, I wasn't expecting dog, to be honest. I had ran it before and I knew that, you know, grass was coming on. But, you know, let's open it, let's check. You know, maybe.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy grass.
Almost. You know, it's a, 50% success rate. I'm, okay, that's fine. So, I mean, what can we do about it, right? Not much. So let's just fix the rest of the stuff. So natural language. So it's a similar exercise. We can just remove this breakpoint for the next execution. So in a similar way, using Microsoft's services, I just go through the text and I check the language that it's used. Oh, it will fail because the file is open. Learn something every day. Let's just restart. REST requests on a live presentation should go fine. A bit slow. I don't have a breakpoint, so just have to wait. Okay, done. So let's check our file again.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy grass.
All right, great. Lazy grass, that's fine. Accessibility check. Are we go? We are go, right? So that's indeed the danger of using these automated tools, right? It will say, yeah, this is great, it's perfect. You know, a blind person can use it, or, you know, as you are laying down in bed and you ask, you know, Alexa, you know, open the PDF UA on iText document and read it out to me, because, yeah, I just want you to read this one-liner with 2 cute pictures, and it will go, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy grass. Kind of disappointing, right? So it's not perfect. So the future, right? You know the saying, if you know a picture is worth 1,000 words, but do we need them, right? It's all about, I mean, what's the right tag in here that we should have applied? You know, it's also, interestingly enough, as I was preparing this presentation, I created the PDF just by using Word. I just exported to PDF. And I ran the exact same code. And the dog picture was identified as dog. It was tag 0. Like, great, success. I'm the best programmer in the world. It's going to be a great presentation. But then as I was kind of, you know, I would have to take a lot of steps to make it PDF UA compliant. So then I recreated the PDF using iText. But then the dog with the exact same image comes out as grass. And I was like, yeah, you know, screw that. I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to use it in the presentation. And, you know, it is what it is. So that's one side of the coin, right? The other side is, you know, should I have used the description? You know, a brown and white dog lying on the grass, because that's factually correct. It is what it is on the picture, right? It's much more accurate than just grass, right? It does paint a picture. So, you know, as all things in life, it's all about compromise, right? I mean, what would you rather see here? Is it the caption or the tag? Anyone? The caption, right? Maybe. The tag? But then you'd have grass. True, you know, the quick brown fox jumped over a brown and white dog lying on the grass. Yeah, it's kind of weird. So who would rather have the caption or the tag? Show of hands for caption? Oh, tags? You didn't vote. What's wrong with you? The what, sorry? So it depends on the context, right? Bam! I like you. You're a nice person. So indeed, context is everything, right? You know? So context is everything. So as I was preparing for this presentation, you know, as I was Googling for examples, I came up with this one. I don't know if it's easy enough to see it, but it was pretty funny because, you know, this tweet by Tesla, they added this comment because they know that, you know, if you're using a screen reader, you know, if you have a disability, if you're using, you know, Alexa or whatever, you know, it will be very hard to read that tweet, right? I mean, then what would be like heart, 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 heart. Tesla, plug. I'm not going to say heart again, sorry. So yeah, context is everything, indeed, right? So, I mean, we're getting there. We have the technology. You know, machine learning is great, but it still has these caveats. You know, but it's machine learning. It's evolving. You know, we've all drank the Kool-Aid, right? It's the next big thing and whatnot. And yeah, that's what I have for you today. Any questions? No questions.
You said there is no tool to calculate the context. Is there anything in the future that helps to understand the context and more accuracy?
Yeah, so there are some tools that we're actually exploring that do summarization, for instance. So, for instance, one of the things, I don't know if you've noticed, but one of the aspects in accessibility, I think it's within content, is, for instance, title. Okay, so one of the things that I actually set, should be somewhere. So one of the things that I actually set by hand was the document title. Okay, so it's something that I did not have a tool to do it programmatically, the same way that I did alternate descriptions and the language used in the text. The other thing is title. You know, I can show you, yeah, I could show you the code I've used to generate the document, but I had to explicitly set the title for it. And it's the same for presentations and for the W3C standard, the WCAG that we saw earlier on. It's also one of the requirements. For instance, that web pages require a title. And titles, I don't think we're there yet. There are tools for summarization. So for instance, on Reddit, I don't know if, does anyone know Reddit? The similar question as Xkcd. If you don't, leave. I don't care for you. But for instance, in Reddit, there's a bot called AutoTLDR. You can look for it. So for instance, sometimes when news articles are posted, the bot goes in and automatically does like a huge reduction of the news article. And it's pretty impressive. It goes down like to 20% in size. And I don't know the technology behind it, to be honest. But you read it and it's like, you can understand it. It's like you can actually understand like what the bot extracted from the news. And it's a pretty good summary. And if you think about it, what's the title other than a summary of the content, right? So maybe that's the direction, I would say. Okay. All right. Any more questions? No? All right. What, sorry?
You heavily focused on PDF.
Yes. Okay, let me go back. I'm going back to slide number 2. I'm not being difficult, just because it fits. So yeah, I work for iText. iTextPDF.com is our website. So yeah, we focus on PDFs, on creating PDFs, extracting data from PDFs. And I mean, indeed, we do get a lot of customers, specifically if they have to deal with the US government, for instance. It is mandatory by law in there because of that 508 accessibility, the Section 508 Rehabilitation Act, that all of the documents that they produce and that they distribute need to be accessible. So you can imagine I was talking about 1 trillion documents out there, but you can imagine the government also has, I don't know, gazillion documents that they have to go back and manually, inspect them, and add titles. Language is probably easy for them, just English, done, right? I mean, but for, captions, title, most of the times, PDFs don't really have them, so, that's why the presentation was focused on PDFs. I mean, we had to plug in the company name somehow. Sorry if I deceived you and you were expecting other formats, but there you go.
But the web pages are somehow considered documents, right?
They are or are not?
They are or not? I don't know.
Yeah, if web pages are considered documents, I don't know, you tell me. I think they are, right? I mean, what is a document? It's a container of information, right? Generically speaking, because, yeah, you don't think a web page is a document?
But how do you do, for example, for the colorblind people, the PDF download?
So, okay, that's an interesting question. So it depends if it's in an image or if it has been drawn. So we're getting very PDF, technically mumbo jumbo. But there are different kinds of daltonic people. There are, I think, 3 or 4 different kinds. And depending on that kind, they have different sensibility to different colors. I hope no one's daltonic here, and maybe I'm talking a lot of, well, saying a lot of mistakes, putting it more politely. And we could identify those colors, their RGB code, and then if it is, we could flag them like, you need to manually, visually inspect this document because we can see that there is some overlap in these colors, that they shouldn't be close together. I mean, same thing with images, right? You can extract color information from a photo, a bitmap, whatever the case may be, right? Same thing with web pages, right? You always have that information. Otherwise, how would a browser render it, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's. I would say the concept is applicable, to documents, PDFs, web pages, anywhere really, because the concept is always somewhat the same, which is like the language, description. So, for instance, in here I focused in images in particular, but a harder scenario to solve are like when you have tables or when you have charts, right? So imagine a chart. So for instance, during the onboarding process we do at the company, when we are talking about PDF UA, we show it's like a spider chart, and then we go, how would you think a screen reader would interpret this kind of chart, right? It's kind of super difficult. It's super visual for you to interpret it, right? So, we're not there. We have these challenges. I think they are transversal to any information container, let's call it. I don't think it's limited to people with disabilities. I mean, you can go driving your car, right, and you can have, read me whatever, read me this article on this web page, or, read me the encyclopedia because I'm getting curious today. I don't know, whatever, right? Or you can ask your phone or Alexa or whatever. So yeah, not limited, whatever you have information. And those are the challenges, I think. More questions? Yeah? Yes. Yeah. You do. So in PDF UA, you can define the reading order, for instance. So take a paper, right, where you have 2 columns. If you don't define that, then it would just write. It would just write. It would just read, like first column, second column, first column, second column. That doesn't make sense, right? So yes, indeed, in PDFs you have reading order, right? Of course, in the example I gave you, it's easy, right? It's just, but for instance, as I was preparing the presentation, the first time I tried, let me just open the PDF again. The first time I tried, it would go like, the quick brown jumped over the lazy fox dog, or fox grass. Just because the paragraph was one element and the images were another element. Yeah, so I had to make the distinction. So in PDFs, you have reading order. You have, much like in a HTML or a Word document, you can specify like if this is like the title, if it's a header, so that there's, if it's a bullet list, so lists are also an interesting example, but somewhat easy to solve, right? Because, yeah, you do have some information. Because then a screen reader can go like, here's a list, number 1 on the list, And then, right? And then you can say, can you jump to number 5 or go back to number 1, right? So there's context information. In PDFs, things are a bit harder because PDF, it's a very low-level format, let's say. It was designed, for printers, right, back in the day. So it has instructions like put the thing down and then write it on this coordinate, and then go back and write it. So there, for instance, you don't have concept of tables. A table is just a set of vertical and horizontal lines and stuff like that. So it's very low level. So there are some difficulties because of that, and that's why there is tagging, for instance, in PDFs. Just going to what you were asking, so there's tagging and stuff like that to overcome that kind of things. Yeah. Any more questions?
Just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
I have looked at PDF before, and as you said, the structure is very difficult to understand. Is there any plan, as you know of, to change the structure of PDFs in the future? Or it's gonna be a stay the same forever?
Well, you'd be surprised on how active the PDF community is. So, as you know, it's the PDF is an ISO standard. New versions of the standard come out somewhat frequently. So right now we're at version 2.0. And this year a new revision will be made public. I mean, the thing about PDFs is that they do try to maintain backwards compatibility, right? PDFs were always about you can open anywhere and it will always look the same, right? And then, for instance, it has substandards like PDF-A for archival. And for instance, the idea behind it is that you can open it 30 years, 40 years from now, and it will render exactly the same, as it did today. Because it has a set of rules, like only some fonts can be used and stuff like that. You cannot reference external stuff, right? You cannot do that with a web page. You build a web page, then, there's a style sheet that you're loading from somewhere or a JavaScript or whatever, right? And then it will look completely different. The standards will look different. The browsers will render differently. Internet Explorer will make a comeback and we'll all be miserable, stuff like that. So yeah. But going back to the question, for instance, there are a lot of proposals for changes. One that I believe is very interesting, and we're kind of writing a piece about it, a blog post about it, together with some partners, is Next Generation PDF, which has a really great name, right? It should have called Next Generation PDF 2000 Ultra Mega whatever. So Next Generation PDF is a bit to overcome a very big shortcoming in PDF, which is, have you ever opened a PDF on your mobile phone? Sometimes it crashes. Well, you can't really fault PDF for that, I would say, just fault the reader. But the problem is that you'd probably have to go like this, right? Swipe left, swipe right, zoom out, right? It's not responsive. It's not a responsive format. And this day and age, where we're consuming documents on our watches, on tablets, TV screens, it needs to be responsive, right? It needs to reorganize, readjust to the reader. So the idea behind Next Generation PDF is that by using tags, special tags, a PDF can be converted automatically into HTML and back from HTML into PDF, so that it gets rendered, on a mobile phone browser or whatever the case may be. So not PDF, but in a more responsive way, let's call it. So it's pretty active. There's a
It's not changing the format of the PDF itself, it's the reader that is changing.
well, not the reader. It's adding functionality on top of it, if we're honest, because tags are already there. So if it wasn't for tags, PDF UA would not exist. So it's just Next Generation would be like a special, let's call it a dictionary of those tags on how to convert them into an HTML file format. Good? Long live PDF. All right. Any more questions? Thank you.